Hello, for today's digital story, I'm going to be talking about XR and VR and compare and contrast them, as well as sharing a lesson plan about ancient Egypt utilizing VR as a resource. What is XR? XR is short for extended reality. Essentially, it is mixing both virtual and real environments. So, people that are using XR are able to see the real world around them, but then also have digital elements added into the display. Mixed reality might be something that you've heard of before. It is a type of XR. It's blending both physical and digital worlds so that people can interact with both at the same time. Um, I had never heard of XR before. I've said before in other digital stories, I'm not a very technologically savvy person. I've heard of VR and AR and MR, but I'd never heard of XR before. I thought it was kind of interesting to um, learn about, but I'm not sure I would use it in a classroom just yet. Because I feel like I wouldn't really know what to do with it. I think it has some really great benefits, but like one of the videos we were watching talked about thinking about how is it going to be engaging? Is it going to be engaging but just is it going to be fun but distract from the lesson, or is it going to be delivered in such a way that is an engaging part of the lesson? And then how are students going to be included and able to access this resource? So, I'm not sure that I would use it right away, but I think it would be really interesting to go through a teacher training on using XR or VR to learn more about it so that I could use it properly in the classroom so it was a true tool instead of just a toy. Um, I've never even used any VR headsets. I've had students that did. I taught 6th grade before I came to UF, and I had lots of students that had used VR and they loved it and they loved talking to me about it, but I've never used it myself. Some of the barriers that I found either through a reading or through videos that I watched and articles that I read on my own of using VR for personal use is that some people get motion sickness. The cost is really expensive, so a lot of people don't have access to it financially. If there's tech issues, a lot of people don't know how to fix them, and then that causes frustration. Um, and then just some negative attitudes towards VR and XR when people don't understand the uses of it, and it just seems like a game or a tool instead of a tool. Some barriers for a VR for teaching and learning would also be cost. How many sets are you going to have? How are you going to manage time using those headsets? Because to have one for each student or one for like multiple groups would be really hard and expensive. A lot of teachers don't have training on it, so they're unfamiliar with how to use it in the classroom properly, and they are leery of using something that they're not familiar with. And then another barrier would be a lot of times the curriculum isn't integrated into it, and so it can be difficult to integrate VR into a lesson plan or a unit plan into the standards that we're teaching without knowing how to properly use it to meet those standards. For my lesson plan, I decided to focus on the social studies topic of ancient Egypt. It's something that I really enjoyed teaching when I was teaching 6th grade. So in this lesson plan, we'll talk about the geographic and natural resources in ancient Egypt, the Nile River, and how to utilize VR within this lesson plan. In this first part of the lesson plan, I would have students hypothesize about the geographic and natural resources available to the ancient Egyptians, thinking about what they know about that area of the world today in modern day Egypt. I would then show them this video, what natural resources did ancient Egypt have by the African routes, so that students could then, after watching the video, compare and contrast what they hypothesized and then what they learned about ancient Egyptian natural resources. And I would have them discuss this with elbow partners, and then we would discuss as a whole group before moving on to the next part of the lesson. As we move through the lesson during this ancient Egypt unit plan, I would have students then Analyze maps to learn about the resources available, looking at ancient Egyptian maps and then present day maps, and see what they notice about the resources available to Egyptians. Students would then use VR. We would have a schedule for who was using the VR headsets at what time. And they would use this to experience these resources and then think about the resources' impact on civilization and the establishment of new civilizations. We would then take time to talk about what is the impact of rivers on civilizations and how does that impact survival and where civilizations are founded. Um, and the students would then go back to the VR and learn about the Nile River and its use in both ancient and present day Egypt. At the end of this lesson, students would create a presentation. They could create a video, they could create a stop motion video, they could create, like, build something out of materials that are already in the classroom, or they could create a multimedia presentation, sharing what they learned about ancient Egypt's natural resources and the Nile River's impact on civilization. Thank you for watching my digital story, and I hope you enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to your feedback.